Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the SWAS NBA Friday night. Things are tough right now with all the pieces that were just moved at the trade deadline. It's almost like we're dealing with 22 new teams here. So I'm not seeing a ton of action on the board that I want to dip my toes into. As far as last night, I went 0-2. That Rocket bet, man, what a bad bet. Got the worst of the number. Thought it was a sketchy line. Just a bad bet all around. And then I put a half unit on the Warriors money line. They almost covered the plus 7.5. Didn't matter, though. I had the money line, so 0-2. Didn't really like the board. Probably just should have taken a night off, which that describes my problem with betting to a T. I can't take the night off, or I can't pass on a standalone NFL game. You need to do that if you want to prioritize winning, and I don't have that in me. So I probably just should have taken the night off. And honestly, this slate of games is similar. I mean, with all the moving pieces, really tough for me to find some value right now, having some trouble. We'll go through a few of the games, probably not going to get to all of them. We will go through all of them on the live show, though, which is at 4 p.m. Eastern time.
I mean, is Cooper Rush worth 2.5 points?
I would hope Quinn Ewers put up a decent stat line against Arizona State. If he didn't, we have a real problem.
You can say the same thing about Creighton. Okay, they had the one good game against Kansas at home.
When Toast talks about the kicking market, it's like some earth is flat shit. Andy, true or false, this is going to be a dog walking.
Dog walking. This is my dog walking of the day. I think it's going to be very ugly. Dog walking. I think this is going to be ugly.
Hey, get the sauce. First up is San Antonio on the road in Charlotte. The Hornets are catching 11.5 points at home. Total sitting at 225.5. Score projection 112 for the Spurs, 114 for the Hornets. In the last 10 games, the Spurs are 19th offensively, 29th defensively. That's against the third strongest schedule in that span. Hornets are 25th in strength of schedule in the last 10, so they've played a much easier schedule than the Spurs have. They're 11th defensively, 26th offensively. So the Hornets offense has been absolutely terrible. Spurs defense has been absolutely terrible. Injuries on the San Antonio side, there are none. So we should see the Spurs at full strength for this one. On the Charlotte side, I mean, looks like a paint by number here. So we got LaMelo Ball questionable, still no Brandon Miller. Josh Green's on the report listed as probable. Nurkic is listed as questionable, so we might see Nurkic make his Hornets debut. We also might see Dalton Connect make his Hornets debut. He's on the report listed as questionable. Pretty sure we will not see Cam Reddish make his debut. He's been ruled out. Obviously, there's a ton of moving parts here. I don't know how much time we could spend breaking down this Hornets team right now with the injuries and the trades. I mean, who knows what to expect from the Hornets in this one. We can talk about the Spurs defense, though, or the lack of defense. In the last 12 games, they're 4-8 against the spread, 4-8 straight up. Defensive rating close to 120. So if you subscribe to this channel, you've heard me talking about this. The Spurs defense, we're waiting for it to come back, and it just doesn't seem to. Even last game against the Hawks in the second half, Atlanta was scoring pretty easily against the San Antonio defense. So until the Spurs show me otherwise, I'm going to handicap them as a bad defense. Now, you might be thinking, Kyle, who cares? They're playing Charlotte. The Hornets offense is terrible. And I mean, you're right. In the last 5 games, an offensive rating under 105, effective field goal percentage down to 47%. That's terrible. But there was no LaMelo Ball in those 5 games. If you look at their last 7 games with LaMelo Ball on the floor, offensive rating jumps up to a 117. So we're talking about a crazy night and day difference here. This Hornets offense is capable of scoring points when LaMelo Ball plays. He is listed as questionable. So the Spurs defense, not a unit I trust. The Hornets offense, a unit I can trust a little bit when LaMelo Ball is out there. So if LaMelo Ball plays, I might be down to take a Charlotte team total over here. Also, San Antonio's offense has been a little streaky, but it's been pretty good. So maybe a full game total over if LaMelo plays. The Hornets also play a faster pace when LaMelo's out there. So if LaMelo Ball is ruled in, maybe a Hornets team total over or a full game total over here. Next game. Cleveland is on the road in Washington. The Wizards are catching 17 points at home. 17-point home dogs. Total sitting at 233.5 or 234. Score projection 119.1 to 111.8. In the last 10 games, the Cavs are 3rd offensively, 9th defensively, 5th in strength of schedule. The Wizards dead last offensively, 16th defensively. Look at this Wizards team playing some defense, 23rd in strength of schedule. Obviously, as I'm sure you know, both these teams were involved in the trade deadline. DeAndre Hunter is now a member of Cleveland. He's listed as questionable, so we don't know if he's going to make his debut here. On the Washington side, I mean, we got all kinds of moving pieces, and we don't know if they're going to play. Chris Middleton is now a member of the Wizards. He's listed as questionable. Marcus Smart is now a member of the Wizards. He's listed as questionable. Yeah, as I'm sure you guessed, I don't have much interest in betting this game. I will say, watch out for them Wizards, man. 3-0 against the spread, 3-0 straight up in their last 3 games. The Wizards have won 3 consecutive games, so just when it looks like the Wizards are trying to tank, they go on a winning streak, making this Wizards team just the most unpredictable unit I've ever seen. So yeah, I have no interest in betting this game. Next, Milwaukee is on the road in Atlanta. The Hawks are catching 5.5 points at home. Total sitting at 238.5 here. Score projection 117 for the Bucks, 122.4 for the Hawks. In the last 10 games, the Bucks are 9th offensively, 24th defensively, and that's a main talking point with this Bucks team. What's going on with the defense? That's against the 22nd strongest schedule too. So in the last 10 games, the Bucks are 24th in defensive rating against the 22nd strongest schedule. Milwaukee really struggling on the defensive side of the ball. And speaking of struggling on the defensive side of the ball, they're playing the Hawks, whose defense seems to have fallen off a cliff in the last handful of games. 23rd in defensive rating in the last 5. Offense is coming around though for the Hawks, and at least when we're talking about the Hawks, we can point at the strength of schedule. They're 8th in strength of schedule in the last 10 games, so at least the Hawks are playing some decent competition. Injuries in this one, we do not know if Kyle Kuzma is going to make his Bucks debut. He's on the injury report listed as questionable. So is Giannis. So is Lillard. Good Lord. So we don't know who's playing for the Bucks in this one. On the Atlanta side, I mean, they now have Terrence Mann. Not sure if he's going to make his debut. He's listed as questionable. They also now have Karis LeVert, who's listed as questionable. Niang, another new Atlanta Hawk, listed as questionable. Jalen Johnson's been ruled out. He's been out for a little while. Same with Clint Capella. Trae Young is on the report, but he's listed as probable. So yeah, injury reports for this game is a mess. I will say, though, we have to talk about the slumping Milwaukee Bucks. 1-5 against the spread in their last 6, 2-4 straight up. And it's not the offense. It is not the offense. The offensive rating during this slump, it's still over 118. So the Bucks offense has been fine. The defense, like I said before, has fallen off a cliff for this Milwaukee team. In their last 7 games, a defensive rating over 123. That is terrible. A defensive rebounding rate of 65%. So they're getting cleaned up on the defensive glass. And what makes this matchup interesting is the Hawks are doing the same exact thing. In their last 4 games, their defensive rating has dropped to 124.8. So the Hawks are also playing 0 defense right now. Offensive rating over 119. So both these teams are scoring. Neither are playing any defense. Tell me why we shouldn't take it over here. In the last 4 games, Hawks opponents have a 60% effective field goal percentage. So yeah, I don't see either team making many stops here. It's a little tough to place a bet right now with the injury reports and the trade deadline. You got new pieces on both sides, so it's tough to place a bet. But I don't know how this one stays under the total, so there's a 238.5 available. Maybe I'll take the over here. It'll be over in this one next game. So yeah, I'm going to cut it off there. It's almost 4 a.m., so I'm just going to cut it off. As far as the remaining games, Miami at Brooklyn, I was leaning towards the under. Ben Simmons is going to play, and the Nets did just lose to the Wizards with Ben Simmons. But in the 5 games prior to that, they were 5-0 against the spread in the games where Ben Simmons played. So I guess I lean towards Brooklyn or maybe an under there. Kind of like the Pistons, plus 3.5 for a money line bet. Joel Embiid is going to be out there for Philadelphia. And, I mean, they look terrible with Embiid on the floor. He looked really out of it on the defensive side of the ball. So I lean towards Detroit. Didn't really get a chance to look at the last 2 yet, but we'll talk about them on the live show, 4 p.m. Eastern time. If you're able to make it, would love to see you in the comments. Hit me up in the Discord if you need me.